Hello, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vijeta, and today we will be continuing with our lecture series. Today we will start with John Lilly, and his timeline was from 1553 to 1606. So let us begin. John Lilly was an English writer, poet, dramatist, playwright, best known for his books Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit, written in 1578, and Euphues and His England, which was the sequel of Euphues, written in 1580. He was born in Kent, England. He was the registrar for the Archbishop Matthew Parker. He was a student at Magdalen College, Oxford, where he earned his bachelor's degree. He started writing comedies after 1580, so he was a college educated man. Lilly's plays were acted before Queen Elizabeth by the Children of the Chapel and by Children of Paul at the Blackfriars Theatre. In 1583, he gained control of the first Blackfriars Theatre. So these are the actor groups, Children of the Chapel and Children of Paul. In 1632, Blount published 6 court comedies, the first printed collection of Lilly's plays, which included the following plays presented by the Children of Paul, not Children's of Paul, it's Children of Paul. Endymion, written in 1591, Compaspe, 1584, Sopho and Phao. Now, Soppho and Phao, that's the spelling, okay? Written in 1584, Galatea, 1592, Midas, 1592, and Mother Bombay, 1594. Love's Metamorphosis, an important play, was actually left out among the 6 comedies. And Lilly made a deep influence on Shakespeare. Love's Metamorphosis has deep influence on Shakespeare's Love's Labour Lost. Galatea, which was also one of his plays, it also influenced Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream. The proverb "all is fair in love and war" is actually the work of Lilly, and it's written in Euphues. So yeah, that's an interesting tidbit. Francis Mears places him. Actually, he placed him among the best known, the best for comedy. So Lilly, by some of the scholars, esteemed scholars, is known to be the best dramatist, the playwright who was able to pull off comedy. Ben Jonson named Lilly among these foremost rivals who were outshone and outsung by Shakespeare. The Maid's Metamorphosis is a late Elizabethan stage play, a pastoral, first published in 1600. The play, a comedy of considerable merit, was published anonymously, and its authorship has been a long standing point of dispute among scholars, although they are attributed to Lilly only. Although a lot of people say that they might have been written by some other playwrights, but mostly for now, people have attributed the plays to Lilly only. Now we come to the major works of Lilly. Euphues, the first one, The Anatomy of Wit, 1578. Euphues is a Greek word which means graceful and witty or a well-bred man. Lilly adopted this name from Roger Ascham's The Schoolmaster. So you see, a lot of these playwrights were influenced by each other, and their works kind of showcased that. The style of this novel gave rise to the term euphemism. Not euphemism, it's eupheism. I was also confused. Eupheism and euphemism are different, okay? The play is about a young gentleman, Euphues of Athens. Eupheism, what it is? It is a peculiar mannered style of English prose. It consists of a precisely ornate and sophisticated style, employing a deliberate excess of literary devices such as antithesis, alliterations, repetitions, and rhetorical questions. So, back in the day, dramatists really wanted to make their plays more dramatic and more ornamental. So, this style where you can include a lot of these alliterations and repetitions, it was hugely favored, which is the reason why Euphuism came into being. Classical learning and remote knowledge of all kinds are displayed in such a style. Euphues and His England, written in 1580. It is a sequel to Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit. It contains the voyage and adventures of Euphues. Now we come to Sappho and Phao, written in 1584. It is a comedy by John Lilly. It was performed at the Blackfriars Theatre. It is set in Syracuse. It is about the romance of Sappho and Phao, which was influenced by classical mythology, not specifically Ovid's Alien, although a lot of people think they believe that, but it's not completely true. Sappho is the queen, while Phao is a young ferryman. Now we come to Endymion, The Man in the Moon, written in 1591. It is a play by Lily, and Endymion is in love with the goddess of moon, Cynthia. They never get married because Cynthia was a goddess. Now, the play provides a vivid example of the cult of flattery in the royal court of Elizabeth. Yes, that's Lily always pointed out the flaws in the court, and the social awareness of these dramatists is something that could be seen in all of their plays. Although the story is about some tragic love thing going on between the characters, but the social awareness, the society, the representation of society in general and in court, these are the elements that these dramatists never missed out on. It has been called without doubt the boldest in conception and the most beautiful in execution of all Lily's plays. Endymion is finally awakened by a kiss by Cynthia, and obviously Endymion is also written by Keats, as you all know. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. So yeah, Lily had kind of a reverse Snow White, it seems. Endymion is awakened by a kiss. And Endymion was a handsome young shepherd, and he was loved by the moon goddess. Some people say it's Celine, some people say it's Cynthia. Let me know in the comment section if what you think is the correct answer. Little homework. Now we come to The Women in the Moon, written in 1595. It is the only play written in blank verse by Lily. Pandora, the first woman on Earth, is the protagonist of the play. The play has 7 planets as characters, and the play is set before the Earth was created. And the play is actually a satire on women. The 7 planets are unhappy because their best qualities have been given to Pandora. They all decide to despise nature, and Saturn, the eldest, goes first to demonstrate his power, and he afflicts Pandora with his characteristic melancholic mood. In the same way, Jupiter in Act 2, Sol, the Sun in Act 3, Mercury in Act 4, Luna in Act 5, they all start to demonstrate their power. They all start wreaking havoc in Pandora's life. In Act 5, under the influence of Luna, Pandora goes completely mad. She goes completely gaga. At the end of the play, nature chooses to punish Theseus, husband of Pandora, because he is easily swayed by the opinion of others. Theseus is condemned to be her slave and follows her in the moon. It's quite clever if you think about it, taking the 7 planets. I mean, it's true that the planets affect us, but personifying that whole thing and bringing it together in the form of a play, it's quite clever, and it's quite a genius idea. So take it as you will. And now we come to Compaspe, written in 1584. Lily depended on the natural history of Pliny the Elder for the tale of Alexander the Great and Compaspe. Compaspe's portrait is painted by Apelles. Compaspe was Lily's first venture at writing for the stage. Thomas Nash quotes from Compaspe in his play Summer's Last Will and Testament, written in 1592 and very important. Alexander falls in love with the beautiful Theban captive Compaspe. That's the premise of the play. Galatea, written in 1592. Now, modern commentators have praised this play, and they have said that it's a harmonious variety and it is an allegorical dramaturgy. Midas in 1592. This allegorical play is based on Book 11 of Ovid's Metamorphoses, SIS. That's the spelling. Now we come to Mother Bombay, written in 1594, so many years ago. It is a vulgar, realistic play of rustic life. Mother Bombay is a folklore figure in the traditional ballet literature. Lily did not invent her, though he clearly added to her fame, as she is mentioned by other writers. Such old plays and yet so cleverly written. I mean, I am in awe after reading about these plays and after reading about these authors and writers. And it shows that literature has been such a rich powerhouse of knowledge from times immemorial. And it's quite interesting to see so many plays with so many dimensions and so many spectrums of human behavior showcased in such grand styles. So, yeah, anyways, Thomas Heywood in The Wise Women of Hoxton, 1604, and in The Witch of Edmonton, 1621, by Dekker, John Ford, and William Rowley. Yeah, Mother Bombay was introduced, or you can say mentioned, in these plays. In this play, which is written by John Lilly, the title character Mother Bombay specifically denies that she is a witch and she calls herself a cunning woman. I think she is like some sort of a femme fatale. Some sort of a femme fatale. Now we come to probably the most important playwrights for who has contributed a lot. Most important playwrights probably because of his contribution to English literature and also because of UGC Net, who is Christopher Marlowe, and his time span was unfortunately short. It was between 1564 and 1593 because he was stabbed to death, sadly. Anyways, Marlowe was born in Canterbury only a few months before Shakespeare. He is considered as Shakespeare's master in tragedy. He was the son of a poor shoemaker, John Marlowe. He studied at Cambridge. In 1587, at the age of 23, he produced Tamburlaine. He wrote only tragedies during the 5 years of his writing career, which was from 87 to 93, 1587 to 1593. A warrant was issued for Marlowe's arrest on 18th May 1593 and no reason was given for it. Lot of people say that he was some sort of a spy, although it's not completely proved. I mean, a lot of conspiracy theories go around, and some say he was a spy, some say that Shakespeare was Marlowe. Like, there are a lot of theories out there. Anyways, the official theory that you need to know is that he was stabbed to death by Ingram Fraser in 1593. Marlowe's first play on the regular stage in London in 1587 was Tamburlaine the Great, about the conqueror Tamburlaine who rises from shepherd to becoming a warlord. Tamburlaine is none other than our Timur Lane, which we know in India. So, yeah, Marlowe was inspired by heroes from all over the world, and the variety that one sees in his plays is something that is quite astonishing because there was not a lot of exposure and not a lot of globalization was there, and yet Marlowe was able to bring such variety into his works, into his plays. It shows the kind of genius that he was and what he could have become if he had lived a little longer. He could have become parallel Shakespeare or even greater than Shakespeare if you think about it. Tamburlaine was a great success and it was followed by Tamburlaine Part 2. The two parts of Tamburlaine were published in 1590. All Marlowe's other works were published posthumously after he was gone. Ben Jonson coined the phrase Marlowe's mighty lines. That means Marlowe's blank verse with its new vigor, force, and fire to suit his heroic themes. All Marlowe's tragedies are one-man tragedy. Marlowe had that kind of fire in his work. Tamburlaine Must Die, it's a work written by Louise Felch. It's a novella and it was written in 2004 and it recounts the last few days of Marlowe. In the play, As You Like It, Shakespeare paid tribute to Marlowe by referring to him as the dead shepherd. George Peele remembered Marlowe as Marley, the Muse's darling. He introduced an important element, internal struggle, into English. Yes, Marlowe was responsible for that. Thomas Nash called Marlowe poor deceased Kit Marlowe. A.C. Swinburne, in his Contemporaries of Shakespeare, stated that Marlowe, Greene, and Peele are three gifted men who have been thus bracketed by such critics as in 300 years. These criticisms are important because they are often asked in net exams, and it goes on to show the greatness of Marlowe, that he is still talked about. He was still talked about in the 20th century, and even now we are talking about Marlowe and all these dramatists. And it shows their influence, their greatness, the dimension of their impact on our lives. And that's quite interesting and quite beautiful. Anyways, I hope you liked my video. Next, we will start with the works of Marlowe, but for now, we will stop here. I hope you liked the video. Any suggestions are welcome in the comments box, and please like my video, subscribe to my channel if you liked it, and I will meet you all in the next video. Thank you.